24 weeks, right? So half a year, roughly. And so what I would do is, if I was him, I would take the 30 grand when Pulsechain launches. I would bridge the 30 grand over. And you can hold it in USDC, I would say, and not be exposed to the fluctuation in prices. Because we're still not quite out of the bear market yet. It can still go down a little bit more, right? If Bitcoin is truly going to go to 11K, or some people are calling for it to go down to 7K. I think even I saw Robert Kiyosaki on a thumbnail say it was going to maybe go down to 1K. But I think a lot of people are thinking it's going to go down to 11K or maybe even 7K. And so it can still go basically halfway down from here, possibly. So, if you don't want to be exposed to that, then, USDC is basically one of the main stable coins that I would trust. The other one would be, is it the LUSD? I think it is. That one seems to be holding up as well.
Yeah, I think he would be. I mean, he's got half and half, so he's obviously bought HEX for the copy on the Pulsechain, and then he's holding the majority of the rest in USDC, ready to do that bridge over.
Okay, he's pretty good there then.
So
okay,
he's pretty much all ready to go. I mean, do you think that the bridging, if they're going to bridge that over, I mean, would you assume, and again, because of the volatility, like to wait? I mean, wait a week or so? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so what he can do is he can bridge it all over at once, right? So let's say he's got 30 grand in USDC that he wants to basically turn into Pulse or PulseX. What he can do is he can bridge it over right away. He can hold it as EUSDC on the Pulsechain side, right? That way you don't have to deal with Ethereum, every week or whatever it is. You just moved your money over there and it's just sitting there. It's not really deployed. It's still just sitting in your wallet. It's just on Pulsechain, so it'll be cheaper and faster. And then what I would do is once a week I would say just DCA in, right? If he wants to buy the first day that he can, if he thinks it's an okay rate, okay, go for it. Maybe he'll get a good rate, maybe it'll already be pushed up. It's questionable, but I would only put in, let's say, $1,000 a week, right? If he's got 30 grand, right? And he can do that for, let's say, 24 weeks. It would be the plan. So half a year, DC in, and then he's got another 6 grand left over, right? So the other 6 grand would be for buying any dips, right? So after the first week or two, he can see where the price is going, possibly, or maybe after the first even 6 weeks, he can see where the price is going. Maybe it dips below sacrifice price. If it does that, then he can basically add another $1,000 every time it goes, let's say, 10% lower than sacrifice price or whatever it is, right? And he can keep on doing that, right? And even if he has to eat into some of that 24-week reserve that he has, right? If it keeps on going lower, right, then you kind of want to DCA in more, right, and double down on the lower price, right? So even if it does go down, right, let's say below sacrifice price, and he sees it going down, 10%, 10%, 10%, to the point where he wants to eat into the last few weeks of his DCA, and then I would suggest maybe you could do that. But if it doesn't go lower necessarily, then you kind of have to see whether you want to or when you want to deploy those last that $6,000, right, for buying lower, right? Maybe you just buy it lower because it's it spiked up and then now it came down, but maybe it didn't go below the sacrifice price, right? And that's going to be the trickier part, is trying to figure out, okay, well, what's low enough that you think this is the bottom, and that's probably going to be a combination of timing and price. right? So,
And do you
but that's
think that? And do you think when this launches, do you believe that it will take a little bit of time to have things like limit orders and all of this other fancy stuff on the PulseX DEX, or do you think that that will be available quite quickly? I mean, I know it's all speculation, and you know you're not you're not going to know yourself, but I just want to gauge what your thoughts are on that.
yeah, I don't know a timeline for that to be implemented, right? I think they said that they are looking into it or whatever, but um, yeah, I don't have any news. Just like you said, um, we have to wait for Richard probably to say something, or maybe one of the devs to kind of speak up, but they're not going to speak up, you know, ahead of Richard. So we basically have to wait for Richard to confirm, whether it is or is not going to be available, sooner rather than later.
And just
So,
one last question. Do you believe that, I mean, I don't think this is going to launch for another few months, really. So for me, I'm just kind of building up my dry powder to put some more money in. So I think both coins. But what are your thoughts? Do you think this is going to launch like later in the year? I mean, I think these time in the market. Would you agree with that statement, or do you not think that's the case?
um, I'm leaning towards that he's not necessarily timing the market anymore. Um, I mean, we're pretty much, we pretty much took a big hit already, right? The markets are down. Probably in another 6 to 8 weeks, right? Hopefully we'll hit bottom. Maybe it'll run until October, right? And then we'll see bottom. But um, to me, you kind of want I would want the chain to be out for, let's say, 3 to 6 months still. Even in the bear market, even if the markets are going down, I would still want to launch a little bit before the bottom, right? Because you want to have the chain out there working so that people know about it. It's stable, and it's not just brand new right after the bottom hits, right? You want there to be some confidence in the network, right? So that when the bottom hits, um, and then after you see it bounce and people start wanting to get back in, that then they look at over at Pulsechain and say, oh, okay, it's been running for 3 months or 6 months. It looks okay. Everything's fast. It's working. And that way they might want to deploy their funds there, at that point in time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still I'm in the camp where I think that they would rather launch, or it would be smarter for them to launch before the merge for Ethereum, right? And before the difficulty bomb goes off, right?
Yeah,
Because,
that's what I think too.
yeah, so, but then, when I look at it, I was just looking at it yesterday, and they don't have a specific date set yet. I mean, I'd have to go into their monthly meeting maybe to find out if they have a date or a block range set that they were thinking about. But everything that I read online basically just said, "Oh yeah, August of 2022." I'm like, well, that's not very specific, right? Um, last time when they had an upgrade, I think in December, was it? Um, they had a specific 2 day, 3 day range that they picked out, right? Well ahead of time, right? They knew like in October when this thing was going to go, or whatever it was. They knew it in advance, right? Um, yeah. So, and I think that might have just been delaying. I think that was just the upgrade to delay the difficulty bomb yet again. Um, so I went and looked yesterday. I haven't seen an actual date to it. But then, I did see like a while back they were looking to delay the difficulty bomb yet again. And the only reason to really delay the difficulty bomb is if you're not going to actually do the merge, which is really funny. So I wonder if it's going to get pushed back, maybe like a month or two, even, again. And we're just going to have to wait and see for that as well, right? And maybe that's what Richard's waiting for as well. Who knows? But it may happen in August. It may happen, maybe a little bit later, maybe a month or two later, even. I would say for the merge for Ethereum. But
yeah, I mean, when he
yeah.
initially said, I think it was in May, when he said like it would be 2 weeks or something, it was like I was afraid to go to sleep and stuff. So I had all my alarms set. But obviously now, I mean, it's just going on. And the thing is, now it's a blessing, because the way I see it, I think when it does launch, I mean, there's so many people I know that I onboarded or tried to at the sacrifice time that didn't listen and now want to get involved. So I just think it will. I mean, that in itself says everything, doesn't it? And I think, and I speak for everyone in this room. I mean, I'm not going to be selling any of mine for. I mean, it's just been too long. So yeah, I mean, we just all have to wait and see, I guess, is the answer to the question. But thank you very much for answering my questions.
No problem.
ProFX, what exactly is the difficult bomb that I heard you talking about?
So basically, so you know how the blockchain works, where there's a certain hash rate, right, that like Ethereum or Bitcoin have, right, for all the miners. So there's a certain amount of power, right, that all these GPUs and ASIC miners, depending on what network you're talking about, have for determining what basically solving the solution, right, that's part of the blockchain, right, to get that next block, right. They have it to solve a problem, and the first computer or ASIC, miner, right, the specific hardware that's built just to create or just to solve the hash for Bitcoin. It's basically calculated to an average of 10 minutes for Bitcoin or 13 seconds for Ethereum, right? And let's say there's, I don't know, I don't even know the numbers. Actually, I haven't even looked at it in forever. Let's say there's, 10 trillion, there's a 10 trillion hash rate for Ethereum, right? Well, what they have to do is they have to figure out, okay, if there's a 10 trillion hash rate and we want it to happen every 13 seconds, or let's make it easy. Is that right? I can't even think of it now. Yeah, if there's a 10 trillion hash rate, well, whatever the rate is. If there's a certain rate and we want to have it every 13 seconds, then we need to make sure that the difficulty is such that, on average, we'll find it every 13 seconds, right? So maybe that means that they have, this 130 trillion number out there, so that, you times that 10 trillion times 13, and that's when you're going to get it on average. What ends up happening is, sometimes you end up finding the solution back to back, right? Maybe it's like literally like in the same seconds. Maybe it's 2 seconds later. Maybe it's 13 seconds later. Maybe it's 20 seconds later, right? So you can have these blocks, that are separated by different amounts of time, right? But on average, it comes out to 13 seconds, right? Now, if more people come onto the network, right? More people come with their, new graphics cards. If new graphics cards come out, let's say, for in the Ethereum case, and it's got a lot more hashing power and, that sort of thing, then the hashing rate's going to go up of the whole network. And so what they do is they push that difficulty for solving the solution up so that it always takes an average of 13 seconds. And so that's a dynamically changing difficulty rate, right? It changes every so many blocks, basically. I forget how many. Is it like every hour or whatever? It upgrades, right? And it automatically adjusts. So the difficulty bomb is basically a permanent increase in that number, right? So instead of it taking 13 seconds on average to solve, they're going to bump it up such that it's going to take, let's say, like an hour or a day to solve that next block, right? And so effectively what's going to happen is it's going to take the miners like an increasingly longer amount of time to find it, and they're not going to be able to solve, get that hash, solution for the next block within the 13 seconds, right? And if they can't get it in the 13 seconds, if it takes a day, then you're pretty much bring the network to a halt, right? Because in order to get enough blocks to actually even change that hash rate, it's going to take, a year or something, right? And so in that way, they're basically going to grind the network to a halt, right? Now, to me, the funny question is, well, like, if you programmed it in, then, just if you're a miner and you got hardware doing this, what says that you don't just, go in and remove that from the code and then have all the people running the mining software just, upgrade and remove the difficulty bomb. And then you can continue with your proof of work Ethereum chain and say, F you guys, we're continuing to run, right? So, but that's the general, thesis of it is that they're going to increase the difficulty to the point where the network kind of screeches to a halt. And then
Okay, appreciate that.
yeah, I don't know if Gamma has any more details, specific details to it or not, but it's a general idea.
Thank you.
I have a question about T-share math, and the question is, I understand that what I read is the way the T-share rate goes up is if somebody end stakes with a higher ROI than has ever happened before. My question is that always going to be true? That is, will someone always end stake having a higher ROI than ever happened before? Like, could the T-share rate just be flat?
I think over time, it may flatten out, but it's going to take a very long time, right? We're going to see the hex in the hundreds of thousands, I think, or the T-share rate in the hundreds of thousands of hex, or maybe the millions of hex, before it flattens out.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, scary
Robert,
thought.
check your DM when you get a chance.
Okay, thanks. Who sent me that DM?
Pulse OG.
Okay, thank you. On this T-shirt thing, one more question. If let's say I stake today 1,000 hex for 4 years, and let's say, just to make it easy, 4 years later I end the stake and I get back 2,000 hex. Is my ROI equal to 100%, or is it based on yearly APY average kind of thing?
I'd have to go double check the formula. I think the formula just cares about ROI. I don't think it cares about a time frame.
Oh, okay. So if people keep lengthening their stakes, they're sort of guaranteed to have a higher ROI than what happened in the past.
Yeah. And so, because we're still in the early days, technically, we're going to see that T-share rate, go up, for the first 15 years, right, at a pretty steady clip. Then after that, it's going to be questionable about what kind of rate you're going to get, right, how much it's going to go up. But I think for the first 15 years, you're going to see this T-share rate go up pretty aggressively. And after that, you've already hit a 15-year stake. Then all you can do is hit more 15-year stakes, right? So
right. I see. Okay, I see it. Because I was just playing around right now. If you look at Hex Daily stats, it seems to be about 12 hex per day on average. If you go right after big payday to today, and it's an average about 12 per day. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like 10, 12 per day on average. But it usually, it's usually specific stakes that will trigger it. And then I guess there's short stakes that will kind of bump it along as well, right, a little bit, but they pretty much get reset by these longer stakes every so often to a new price. So the long stakes kind of set it, and then shorter stakes can incrementally move it up, right? But I remember like 2 months ago, there was one that like one day it bumped it up like 700 points, right? It was insane. And that was because one of the longer stakes, ended. So.
And because he got so many when he instaked, it turned out to be a huge ROI for him.
Yeah. If you see Crispy on later on, he can speak to this a lot better than I can. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.